Hello guys, we start chapter 8 today. Chapter 8 is standard costs. So let me start by explaining it this way. So you guys all know about my free library, right? Because I've talked about it ad nauseum. I'm so proud of it. It finally happened. It only took like a year. It only took a coronavirus for us to actually finish it. So anywho, so let's say I have my free library. And let's say that my neighbor comes by and she says, "Oh my gosh, Teresa, I love your free library. I would love to have one, but I am just too old. I don't know how to make such fine carpentry." And she says, "Would you make one for me? I would totally pay you for all of the costs. Just tell me what the cost is." Okay, so we know the cost. Let's talk about our product cost, right? We won't worry about period cost right now, but our product cost, we know that it's composed of 3 items. So I have to think of what's the direct materials that went into this. I was gonna say birdhouse. It's not a birdhouse, it's a free library. My drawing is just terrible. Into this free library, what were my material costs, right? What was my labor costs? And what was my overhead? Of course, I would be a nice neighbor and probably just charge her for materials. But if I eventually wanted to sell this, for example, right, we need to know what our product cost is. And our product cost is made up of our DM, our DL, and our MO. And if you think about it, this is what you're doing in your projects right now. You're picking one specific unit to make, something to manufacture, and you're calculating the material costs, the labor costs, and the overhead costs, right? And so once we refine that and we have that precise number, right? We're not just going to guess. We're not just going to say, I think materials was $100. I think labor was maybe like 40 hours times the labor rate. We're not going to guess, especially if we really are a legitimate company, right? We want to have precise measurements of our costs, right? So a standard cost, we're talking about product costs. A standard cost is a precise, predetermined, we're not guessing, we're putting careful thought into it, a precise, predetermined unit cost. Okay. And so again, we want to take the time to carefully research and go back and measure because it's going to help us set our sales price. If I wanted to start selling this product, I really better have a solid handle on my product cost. And I know that period cost also needs to be covered, but if you can't get a handle on the majority of your cost, which is the product cost, then you're going to have a lot of trouble later on. So that's why companies spend so much time and effort really making sure that they have carefully calculated the standard cost, the cost to make one of their products. Okay, because that's their largest cost of their overall cost. Like I know that total cost is your product cost plus your period cost, right? You guys are doing that in your project. I know that, but this is the largest out of those two. So that's why the companies, your manufacturing companies, are going to spend a lot of time accurately calculating that product cost. Once they have carefully calculated it, that's their standard cost, and they're going to use it to evaluate actual costs in the future, which helps us measure our performance. And we know managerial accounting is all about helping managers to evaluate the company performance, right? Controlling the operations and assisting in planning. This also assists in planning, right? Because it helps us know how much we're going to have to set our sales price at, right? Because we have to at least cover the product costs. Okay, so standard cost, there's your definition. Here's why it's helpful for manufacturing companies to take the time to calculate it, right? Now, how do they calculate it? How do they go about calculating it? We said it needs to be precise. It can't just be guesses. Also, it cannot rest on the shoulders of one person or one department. So it needs to be determined by a cross-functional team. That just means they don't all reside in one department, right? So who should that include? That should include accounting, right? Because we have all the historical financial figures and we know how to measure costs. So it should include accounting. It should include the production manager or production department because they know exactly how much materials goes into one product, right? How many boards of wood, How many nails, how many screws, how many shingles, because they are making it, right? So your production manager should definitely be involved. In a large company, also your purchasing director. They're the ones that are buying the materials, right? They're contracting with the lumber mills. So they have good relationships with those lumber mills and they know exactly how much those materials cost. They also have their finger on the pulse if those material costs are going to increase, right? Because of any kind of supply issues. So you want to have them in the room when you're determining the standard cost because they're going to have information that maybe the accountants don't have. Because remember, accountants have historical information. The purchasing director, he sees what's on the horizon. He knows that, lumber coming from China, it's held up right now. So we're going to have to go to a different supplier. So they know what's happening in the industry because they're on the forefront every day. You're also going to want quality inspectors because they know how much material is lost due to scrap, due to rework, due to damage, right? They're the ones that are inspecting it, and if it's not passing the test as it comes by for inspection, they throw it back, right? Or they scrap it. So they know how much materials we lose, and that represents a cost. So they're going to help us quantify that to make sure that we have the most accurate standard cost when we move forward. Who else? Human resources and payroll should be in the room when we're talking about direct labor, right? Because HR does the hiring, so they know our workforce, and payroll knows how much they're getting paid, payroll, taxes, all that needs to be included in the direct labor. And then accounting should be able to, with the help of the production manager, calculate MO. So you want to really gather across a functional team. In the next video, we'll talk about the two different types of standard costs that a company can work with.